Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. Welcome to a very special episode of the M Makes Money Show. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see that I actually have an in-person guest, which is so rare, right? It's so in this digital world for us to actually be together in person, it just adds so much extra energy and magnetism. So I am sitting next to the gorgeous Chiara Mazzucco. Did I say your name correctly?
Mazzucco. You can say it however you want, because in Italian it's Chiara Mazzucco. Okay. So in American people just take it, just Chiara Mazzucco, whatever.
Chiara Mazzucco.
Exactly. Chiara Mazzucco will do. Hi everyone, bold self.
So Chiara and I met inside of Melanie's Unity Mastermind. And as we do, especially those of us that have a 4-line in our human design, we're like, we need to be friends in person. It's not enough to just be in a virtual mastermind together, but it's been so special.
Got so lucky. We got so lucky that we're in SoCal. So
yeah, I know. I'm so grateful to be in LA where like there is so much opportunity for soul sisterhood connection. And so we hang out and get together every now and then. And one of the things that's so special, and I think often isn't shared enough, is like the magic of these in-person connections and the stuff that we talk about together. It's priceless.
It's so next level. So like I got here, like an hour and a half, like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. We have been talking the entire time. Like we have, and that literally was like, we should go put this on a podcast, like literally nonstop talking about money, business, energetics. Like this is who we are. It's what we do. It's what we riff on. And like to be like the conversations.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really so special. And so, I know that there's going to be people listening that have not had a chance to be in your world or follow you yet. And so I would love for you to just like give a little introduction, who you are, what you do.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that question right now. So my name is Chiara Mazzucco, Bold Self. Bold Self is a lifestyle and empowerment brand for female entrepreneurs. It is for the sovereign. It is for the rebel. It is for the rule breaker. It is for the powerful woman who wants to create a life for herself, of her own, make a lot of money doing it, living a life of freedom and fun and aliveness. There's a lot of aliveness in my work. I teach courses, we have conferences, we have retreats, we hang out. But really at the core, I think it's a bunch of women really coming home to their power, and also like the fearlessness in their ability to stake claim to a life that they want to make their own, which may not look like what other people expect it to look like. So I have a lot of like rule breaking clients, women that are leading in the industry, disrupting the industry, shifting paradigms, and just being bold and courageous enough to do it. So that's the work that I do. Me, I just like Bon Jovi. I'm 35, I'm single. I like to rock and roll and drive around in my convertible and giggle and make voices. And this is my life's work. So that's who I am.
I love it so much. You did a beautiful job. You totally captured the energy. And I get that. Like when we're asked, like, what do we do? And all of a sudden it's like,
I didn't even know how to answer that.
To this. Yeah, but
I wake up.
You so beautifully captured the energy. And like one of the things we were kind of giggling about is how our environment in these sacred spaces that are our homes really like reflect us and our energy. So I've been to your home. This was your first time here.
Oh my God.
You were like It's so you.
It's so Emily. Like, I want to take you guys like on a tour, be like, Emily, 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 Emily. Like, it's all you. And it's like so cohesive and so consistent and so powerful and infused. And it's so you. It's so cool. It's very cool in here. I like it.
And then Kiara is like in the midst of, buying these portraits of rock gods to hang in her house, which is like, it's so her. And I love that we're able to cultivate these intentional spaces because it really matters.
It really does,
and I would love to invite us into a conversation like around identity congruence, because I know that we both do a lot of identity work.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, yes, it's an inside job. And things like our home space, do they feel congruent with the woman that we are, the woman that we're becoming? Those things matter.
Yeah.
When we're at this level that's beyond necessity. It's beyond the roof over the head and the right number of bedrooms, and does the kitchen sink work properly, and is there a shower with good water pressure?
Mhm.
And it's more like, do these things fit with the future vision of us?
You know what I've also realized is like, you're talking about it. So it's like, I think, so there's a few things. Like, a lot of us also create brands based on like, I want to say like the superhero version of us, but you know what I mean? It's like the amplified higher self, next level. Like, for me, I can't sing for shit, but like, I love rock and roll. I love the rebelliousness and all the things. And it was always something that I was like ready and willing to like infuse in my life and in my business and all the things. There were times in my journey where I felt very incongruent. I felt like there was a version of me out into the world that was bold self, bah, 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 and then when I was going through, like, even earlier, the story, like, I jokingly and lovingly call it like I was like in a G-string, like, eating my salt and vinegar chips on the couch with my belly hanging out, watching Supernatural reruns like nonstop. That was a little bit of a lack of congruency. There was like a feeling of like, okay, bold self is there somewhere, but also like, okay, so that created some friction. When I lined that up and I was like, well, okay, well, how would bold self live and all the things? That was like amazing, but it was amazing in many ways. It was amazing because I felt like any part of me that was experiencing imposter syndrome, like, it's like I lived it. Like, I was living it in real life. So I was able to like remove that from my business, that. But also it was like an effortlessness. Like, when my life represented me and who I was becoming and what the brand stood for, and there was this coherence, there was that like connection, like my content became effortless. My programs were inspired by real life events. And so everything became kind of picked up this momentum of effortlessness. But then also when I got to the point of like hitting the 7 figures, and it was like, now what, right? Like, oh, let's get to 7 figures. It's like, yeah, I can keep going, multiple 7, whatever. But I also was like, what am I craving? And I felt a part of me being like, I want to come alive. I want to come alive. And so now it stopped being just about congruency, because that got embodied in all the things. And it started to become of like, what if I made my life like bigger than my business? Now it was like, can I create all things to not just hold my business and be like a match to it, but like hold like my aliveness, my creativity, my adventure and zing for life, like dating and flirting and like me being bold. Like, what if like I'm like, oh, going ziplining, doing all these things, like, going out on a date on a whim, like all these like feelings of like, how would bold self be living her life independent of her business, outside of her business? Yeah. And all of a sudden it created the spaciousness and, which allowed and supported my business to skyrocket even more within that container. So I think that like congruency is so powerful, like at every level.
Yes.
So good. So much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like there are these sneaky limiting beliefs around like, what parts of me can I show in my business? What's acceptable? And it's like, and I love what you were talking about, because it's like, if we can expand the container of our business and expand the container of our life, and then allow the two to be in lockstep, it's like, it does get to hold it all. And any rules or things that we have, you know, it's like, I have clients come in and they're like, part of the reason I hired you is because you're a mom, and I love that. And like, you know, a lot of the coaches aren't. And it's like, if I were to try and hide the motherhood part of my life, it would feel so weird, because it's a really significant part of me in my life right now, in the season that I'm in. And I want to be able to show women how we flow between, you know, celebrating a $5,000 payment coming in, and then like wiping snot off of nose and being so proud that JJ's, you know, staying up on his skates and his little ice hockey gear.
No, it's all perfect. And like, you know, this, like one of my biggest things, like, so the breakdown before like the big like Easter egg sale or whatever, like my breakdown was literally like, is Kiara being human enough for the next level? That was the foundational thing. Is Kiara enough? Like, is Kiara enough? Is Kiara enough? And it was like, the reality is that I do lead rebels. I lead rebel energy, like disruptive energy. And that oftentimes means that I have to go places and do things that have not been done in the industry before. If you go to my stuff, if you go to my Instagram, there's literally nothing in there that tells you that I'm a bit like, that I help, that I mentor, like other than like my bio says I mentor, you know, multiple 6 and 7 figure earners, but like, I don't have like a whole blog on like 15 ways to get your next client, or like how to like quadruple your revenue next month. Like, I don't have any of that shit. And like, I get, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, like if it's just, is the fullest expression of Kiara enough? So that's my journey. If I didn't share all of that with my audience, and if I wasn't going through that myself, and like, if I didn't like blend that with my brand, I wouldn't be able to attract the women in this space that desire to be human, the desire to be fully expressed, the desire to go where no one has gone before, that are destined to be leaders, that are destined, like, and doubt and self-doubt and all the things. So it's like the truth of who we are infused in our brands is the thing that calls in the people. So it's like, but there is that fear of like, oh, what should I share? What should I not? But again, even that question is operating within an existing paradigm of like, what's there. So it's like, that's not fucking leadership anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like an interesting journey that we all get to go through at coming home to like what that truth is. But the more willing you are to align all aspects of that identity, that's where the fucking magic happens.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's refinement, and it gets to continue to like build and grow and evolve, like, you know,
and change.
Like, there are things now that I notice in a new way, right? Like, I saw a Facebook memory today of my daughter sleeping, and she was like sleeping in my bed, but you know, like from 2 houses ago. And I was like, ew, those sheets. Like, we don't have those sheets anymore, but I remember at a time, like those sheets like being so luxurious. And now it's like, you know, so, and that makes it sound so materialistic. And it's not, but it's like, there are things that serve us for a certain season of life. And then as we start to step into this new identity, it's like, this has got to go. This needs to come in. How can I integrate this part of myself that felt like she had to sit outside of things, that she was on the sidelines?
And that's a perfect example too, with me being like, you know, at the beginning of my coaching, I was a single mom with, you know, like I had my son part-time, I was living in where I didn't want to live, etc. And it's like, I called in so many single moms, so many women who were like leaving 9 to 5, starting, it was like such a match to that. And then like fast forward to now, like I live in LA, my son lives in New York with his dad. We have a completely different relationship. I fly out every month, et cetera, et cetera. So I've integrated the parts where I can like support people who are single moms, but I'm no longer, that's not like, if they happen to be, that's fine, but that's not the point of connection anymore.
Right.
Because I've evolved and I've integrated what needed to be integrated.
Yeah. And it's not like the loudest part of your story.
It's not, exactly. Not anymore.
Right.
It used to be.
It used to be,
but it was also the very like loudest in my experience. Like shutting off the power in the middle of winter while I'm like in the middle of cooking my son dinner, and I give him a bag of popcorn for dinner, and I have an anxiety attack as I light the candles, and you know, like we play games, see how many sweaters you can find around the house. Like literally, like that was that was like the rock bottom breaking point. So that part of my story was so real and so like he was part of that. Now I'm actually, what's interesting is like I'm calling in a lot of people that are like shifting dynamics in relationships or reframing co-parenting relationships. There's a lot of my clients that are co-parenting with partners and stuff like that, and they're coming to me because it's like now it's this next level of like women getting to be extraordinary mothers and having extraordinary relationships with their children, but now also getting to choose themselves within a divorce or within a co-parenting relationship. And that's what I've become a match to, because like, oh, gather around the fire, let me tell you a story about how, you know, and now that gets to be the match. So we get to evolve, but that's why it's important to like infuse that in our stories and how we show up online.
Yeah. And also like the thing that we sometimes are afraid for people to know about us is like the actual thing that someone will hire us for.
That's what they want. Cause then they find it and they're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Kiara, you're a shit show. I love this. Show me. Like, it's like,
I don't know if there was ever a part of you that was like, well, I can't show that I'm like a single mom and whatever.
There was, absolutely there was.
Right? It's not like the picture perfect, I have my entire life together.
I used to not tell men that I was a single mom. Like I literally, it was not, no.
Yeah. And like, I just had that aha moment recently. It's over something stupid, so to speak, which is like when I started coaching, I felt like I really wanted people to identify me as a coach. And yet all of my experience came from building and operating 2 different 7-figure businesses, one which was an e-commerce business and one was an agency. And so it was like, I really didn't want to talk about those things. And Melanie kept saying, talk about them. And I didn't want to. And then it's like, I've had clients come in and they're like, I hired you because you run an agency. And I'm like, wait, what? Like the very thing I didn't want you to know is the reason that you hired me.
So good. It's so good.
But that's like true for all of us. It's
whatever
like,
it is.
It's like the person that's struggling with their weight and feels afraid to say that because how can they be the perfect manifestation coach if they don't feel so comfortable in their body? And then their client hires them because
they're so relatable. Yes. They're like, oh, you get it. You're not this perfectly like chiseled, like I feel safe and God, I've been looking for someone. Totally. And like, we know this. And I think a lot of us like know this on a logical level, but I also think it's becoming more and more and more necessary almost, I want to say, in the industry. Because of how, I mean, it's growing really quickly. Like I've been in it just for 5 years and it's already a completely different thing than it was 5 years ago. And I think it's like with the more like copy paste, you know, that we see out there, which is fine, like do what you got to do until you find your voice. That's fine. But the more that we see that, the more there's like a craving, a pull for like, you know, I think a lot of times people gravitate to me because of the humanness. Where I'm like life is messy. Life is shades of gray. Like it's okay. It's okay to fuck up. It's okay to this. It's okay to doubt yourself. It's like all these things. And it's like, you know, it's okay to have a guy run away from you on a date. That's a story for another time. But you know what I'm saying? It's like this humanness, this human experience of it. And it's like, there's a craving for it. So it's like every part of you that wants to be expressed, that wants to align the truth of who you are and infuse it into your business. I really do believe there's a lot of money on the other side of that. Because there's just like a whole community of people that are just waiting to match that.
And by the way, like to anyone listening, that's like, but I'm not a coach. So I resisted this in my agency so hardcore. I was like, no, but that's the business where we have to be real professionals and we have to be buttoned up and it has to be this like more corporate feel or whatever. And you know what my team loves the most? That they send me their human design charts and I like teach them about themselves and how to work together, and that they can like book some time on my calendar and we can talk about how when a new client starts, like they might feel tempted to flip into like the wounded masculine energy of like trying to overperform, and then like the wounded feminine energy of like needing to like feel worthy in the eyes of the client. And so again, it's like the pieces of me that I wanted to hide or that I felt like weren't welcome in that business are also like the very thing that my team loves the most.
I feel like it just frees people, honestly. Like it frees people that you get to be imperfect. You get to like have a creative. I mean, like I love, like even with my team, we have such we giggle, we laugh so hard, like laugh till we cry. Like this gets to be the way that we build things. That's the whole freaking point of being an entrepreneur. Build it as you want it. Like we're not like, we need to like not be recreating other 9-to-5s.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the point? You know, if that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like so refreshing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk money for a minute. Obviously,
let's talk
money. Since this is really the mission of this podcast. And it's
you work with money. Oh, my bad.
But like, here's the thing. The way that you and I talk about money, the way we've been talking about it before we hit record is not normal. And it starts to feel normal for us because we've cultivated these incredible little ecosystems where it's normal. Yeah. But the mission of this podcast is like to make it normal everywhere. Like, can we sit around a dinner table and talk openly about money and recognize the places where we have some weird energy around it?
Yeah.
Because I think part of the reason we stay so wounded in our money stories is because all of our thoughts and feelings about it are just held secret for like decades and decades. And so no one is able to call us out on how whack it is and how weird it is and how the way that we just think things are is actually so unique to us. It's not a universal experience.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to just like riff a little bit on your money journey and like where you started and where you're at now.
So my journey, I think, is like very relatable in terms of like, I started with money was about survival. Money was about struggle. Money was about single mom, paying the bills, getting out of a 9-to-5, escape. Like it was very much taking Melanie uses it like from the bad to good to great kind of journey. And it's like, it was very much like going from bad to good, or not even too good. It was just get me out of bad. Yeah. That's really where it started. And I think a lot of us that are female entrepreneurs have this ferocity in us that like, we're ferocious. Like especially if we have children, it's like, this is survival. Like we'll make it work. And so what ended up happening is that really like triggered like any kind of achievement wounds and all of that. So then money stopped being about survival because I started making it very quickly. I was very poor to begin. Then I signed on for a $40,000 investment and I made $20,000 in like my first 72 hours, like that first week. You know, I had a side ponytail, ate, my toast and was like, and it was a dating and relationship program. I did not start with business or money or any of that stuff. And so I coached on what I knew and all things. And I started making money. And then it was like, then money stopped being about survival as much, even though it left all the trickles of the survival pattern. And then it moved into achievement. And it was like, and that stayed there for a while. Like, it was like my masculine felt I felt very comfortable in that, like, especially once I was building momentum and it was like attaching my identity and my worth to like being able to like do things quickly. And I was growing until I woke up and like, I started my business in 2017 and it was like 2019 or so at the beginning. No, it was at the end of 2019. So beginning of 2020, that I woke up and I was like, I'm so fucking done doing it this way. I had built a $500,000 business in my masculine. I was also working on like pain points on things. And so much of it was just on like scalability. It was like the old school, like in the coaching world of like taking a group program, leveraging your group program, getting your support coaches, blah, 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 like following this fucking template. And I hated it. I hated myself for it. And I was also feeling myself at the edges of like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm just exhausted. Money's not fun. Right. And I feel like that's like right. And then we're like caught in the loop because our identity's touched it. And God forbid our lifestyle has elevated with it, you know, and it's like, now I've got to keep that up. And no, look at, there's like new coaches emerging, having, you know, coming out of the vagina, having 6-figure months. And you're just like, and they just started and it becomes a whole thing. Which is all bullshit because it's really all about like our own journey and falling, you know, and all the things. But in 2020 is when I first started working with Melanie, and I was just basically like, I want to do it completely different. And so then like there was a period up until I want to say like, we'll say 2021, we'll say for the in easy parentheses, was really about the year of coming home to my mastery. And around seeing how my inner work was a match to like more wealth. And it was also about me releasing any old patterns, any beliefs that I had around what I needed in order to. So like, okay, well, like it just was any kind of like remnants of like survival or achievement or ego or any of that were shed in that year. And that year ended up being a 7-figure year. And then the shift now into this year, which we are, you know, on track for $1 million in 6 months, which is like insane. And it's like blowing my mind and it's all the things. But the coolest part about it is that, as you've seen, is that I've transitioned into the experience of money in fun, play. So there's two parts of it. There's the fun and the play and the like, just the giddiness of it, like, which has been so fun. We get the randomest ideas, we put them out, we make a bunch of money, but everybody has a good time. And then on the flip side, the money is now it lives parallel to the legacy and the vision and the impact of like the like the reach, you know. So it's no longer about 6-figure months. It's like 6-figure months for a multi-7-figure business that has that level of impact that is changing so many lives of women coming together, coming alive together, building this community together, like doing life together, being rebels together, having fun together, falling back in love with ourselves together. Like, and that is now what money is attached to, because like even like all these extraordinary months that we've been having, I'm literally sitting there going like, I'm going to make the conference in September so much fun because I'm seeing like all this extra money. I'm like, ooh, we could get a red carpet, roll that out and put the things and put this and this. Like I can see all these ideas, and it's not about, oh yeah, I've hit this number this month. It's now about like, we can make the experience even better. It's now about, I can bring my team members on full time. It's now about that. And so that to me, it's been a journey. But that's been kind of my experience in the last, let's say, 5 years.
I love it so much. And honestly, like, I feel so honored to be like behind the scenes on a piece of it. And I think that's, you know, one of the juicy things that I love about masterminds is like, not just seeing people post and go, oh my God, this was a whatever month, but it like really seeing all of the thoughts and feelings and the becoming that happened behind the scenes, like in order to be an energetic match for that.
You saw.
And just really loving you and loving the women that are like hitting these incredible milestones so that it isn't about a competition and it isn't about achievement.
But you know, also it's
because
like our willingness.
There's a lot of people that actually stay in that mode.
No, for sure.
For a whole lifetime.
That's fine. And also those are usually not the people that keep making more, because it also takes, like, you get to that level and it's actually your willingness to like heal those parts that allows you to catapult into more money. Because that's really like, you know, like all the parts of us, like we were just talking about how there's all these women who are like 7-figure earners. And it's like now a 6-figure month doesn't feel worth celebrating because other people are hitting it. And I'm like, have we forgotten that we're talking about 100 $100,000 and like, it's not $100K a month, it's $100,000 in like, we are already the 1% of the 1%. Like, and you know what? So-and-so hitting her 100K faster than you did does not take your experience of the 100K away. And every time you do, you give your power away. And so we've had to, we are willing to do that. And we're also the kind of women that will show up and be like, wow, why am I not celebrating this? What's going on? Ooh, I'm feeling a little bit of a thing around this and this. And it's like, we work through it. And that's what happens. That's what, when you skyrocket on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, like, we could riff about money all forever. Day, all night, forever. Like forever, amen.
Is it time already?
And
how has it been?
I don't know. But here's the thing. So Kiara and I want to invite everyone listening into a depth around this conversation.
Yeah.
And this is something I've actually never done on the podcast before. So it's really fun to like be creating this invitation. But we had this idea of like, we know this isn't going to be a one and done because how could we possibly capture everything that we have to say in a single podcast episode?
No,
not possible.
Literally, I can't, time is flying by. So we have so much. So we want to create more depth around this conversation and invite you into a little more intimacy around the conversation as well. Mm-hmm.
And so what that's going to look like is a one-time money and mimosas event.
Oh my God. Wait, so it's going to be so fun. So I'm going to come back here. We're going to set up, we're going to have our mimosas. We're going to have this incredible conversation. You can bring your mimosas. Like we want you, I mean, if you can have orange juice if you want to, whatever, tea, like, listen, we're all friends, right? You can have hard whiskey if that's your vibe. Like we're all just hanging out, but I feel like that will be, because I really do believe that like some of the most activating conversations come from this like riff and like from these riffs, and like to be a fly on the wall and like, you know, to talk about like the real stuff and then the crazy big results that like are on the other side of it, and like,
and what it really takes to make it happen, and the fears and the insecurities and everything like. And so the thing about this money and mimosas conversation is that it really still is a sisterhood girlfriend chat that like you get to be in on. We're not going to be in teacher mode. We're not going to be in coach mode. We're not going to be fielding a bunch of questions. It's like, if you wonder what Kiara and I talk about when we hang out together, if you wonder like in the intimacy and the sacredness of sisterhood, like the ways that we talk about money and what we've gone through and what we're going through and how we see it and how we feel it and what we're calling into our next levels of ascension.
So good.
That's money and mimosas. That's what this is going to hold.
We can talk about that too. We can talk about like what we're calling in and like how we're calling it in, like what like we're actually doing. Because I think that's really valuable, you know, as well. Instead of just like hearing people like, like really being like, yo, like, this is what, you know, this is what I'm putting into place. This is the work that I'm doing around this. I think it'll be fucking rock. And
absolutely.
Do you want to come?
Open invitation.
Yeah.
So tickets are going to be $55 because like, we want this to be such an easy yes. Yeah. Like if it feels like you want to be in on this conversation, you get to be. And you'll get lifetime access to the replay as well. So if you know you want to be in on the conversation and then you look and you're like, oh, Wednesday, June 1st at 11 a.m. Pacific time, I'm on vacation or I'm whatever, it's fine. You still get to like energetically connect at a date and time that works for you. So we'll throw the purchase link into the show notes. And if you're following Kiara and I on social media, I'm at M Makes Money. Kiara's at Bold Self. We'll talk a little bit about it there too. The ticket prices are going to change, by the way. So
because this is going to come out, I think like a week or so before the actual, right? Yeah. So then we'll give
you like 24, 48 hours to slide in at the lowest price.
Yeah.
And
That'll
then,
be fun.
and then
That'll
the
be
price will move up
Yeah. It'll be fun.
accordingly.
It'll be
Yeah.
fun. Wow, so
Yay!
excited.
So that's the call to action if you're wanting to connect with us on a deeper level and learn some little behind the scenes sisterhood chat about money, and join us.
Or just watch
With a
me
drink.
giggle and make voices, because especially with a little bit of champagne, a little
Little
kooky about it,
boozy.
a little boozy, little characters come out. It's a good time for everyone
Yes.
involved.
I love it. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for being on the show.
Yay,
This was so fun, and
So
it feels
fun.
like such a fun part one. And now we
know.
get to be in the anticipation of
Perfect.
part two, which will be the money and mimosas.
Perfect.
Yay!
Yay.
And by the way, if you're listening to this and June 1st has already passed, because I get that podcasts live forever,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
you can also buy the replay. Yeah. So the link for purchasing the ticket will turn into a link to purchase the replay. So even if you stumble upon this a year from now,
It'll still be
you get
there.
to slide right in. And I think that's one of the incredible things about this content creation is that like it does get to live forever, and the energy that's infused in it stays. It's like a little time capsule. And so
Oh,
you
and
can
then we'll get to watch it back and be
Yes.
like, oh my God, look at us in June.
Yes.
Oh, how cute.
Exactly.
Like, little did we know that, that's so fun.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for watching and listening to the show, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way we think, feel, and talk about money will change the world. I truly believe that. It starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested to help this show reach a bigger audience each week. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you want more connection, more M Makes Money style riffs, and a safe place on the internet to talk about money, jump into my free Facebook group, The Money Club. It's linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, happiness, and boatloads of money.